And we are pleased to welcome from the great state of Alaska. You may have won the prize for traveling the furthest here. Ashley Carrick of Fairbanks, Democrat, District 35. Thanks for taking time out to chat. What do you hope to take away from this conference?
This conference is such a good opportunity to network, and especially being from Alaska, a lot of times it's really hard to have those one-on-one, face-to-face communications with people in different states, and I think this is an opportunity to do that, and also an opportunity to talk about the specific policy issues that I'm working on and that others are looking at.
Perfect segue to my next question. What are the specific policy priorities that you're looking at? There's a lot to choose from here. It goes from AI to something at the end of the alphabet. I'm sure there's a Z topic somewhere, but
yeah.
What are yours priorities?
Yeah, so I sit on the House Labor and Commerce Committee in Alaska, and I also sit on the Energy Committee, and those two topics are definitely of great interest, both how we make transitions to renewable energy, especially in a state like mine where we're very traditional natural resource extraction dependent, and it's a part of our history and a part of our present. And then also looking at trends in the workforce and how do we have better recruitment and retention for both public and private sector employees, as well as having the University of Alaska in my district, the flagship campus. I'm really focused on higher education as well. So.
And do you find that we talk about this country being divided in different states, this state isn't at all like that state. Now granted, Alaska is, by definition, has some novel aspects to it, very special. Do you find though that when you come to an event like this, that whether you're from Georgia, whether you're from Texas, whether you're Arizona, the thermometer may read differently, but some of the same issues are at the forefront?
Definitely. There's a lot of the same trends happening across the country, and I think coming to a conference like this, that's where you really get to see that illustrated. So trends in the labor market, people moving jobs. I just heard a fact this morning that the average length of employment in any one position for a millennial or Gen Z individual is 3 years. So that's true across the states, and I think the question is, where are the jobs at? Where is the labor market going? And then in our individual states, you can then tailor some specific solutions to try and address the challenges that folks are facing.
And I imagine in a state such as Alaska, there's a bit of a nuance there, because you look at the discovery, for instance, of oil and a great natural resource in the maybe 70s, and there was a huge influx with the construction of the pipeline and lots of workers from the rest of the country and the globe, I suppose. Is that trend, obviously the economy has grown beyond just tapping your oil reserves, although that's still a big issue, but then you look also at the environment and balancing things. That's a tough nut to crack. It's not just bring all the investment we can, right, because you also have some cherished and much beloved parcels of wildlife and protected areas. How do you go about that? That makes economic development a little tougher, I would think.
I would say it's the top question right now in Alaska, is how do we balance industries that are still currently providing a lot to the state with some of the up and coming industries we see being capitalized on elsewhere. And then also, how do we help divest from some of the interests we've had previously, and do the industries that are going to come in after that actually make up the difference? And the answers to those questions are not cut and dry. There's so much to kind of look at and piece apart there, but I think the one thing that's really fascinating about attending some of the sessions is just the many different ways that states are looking at those problems, and how scalable are some of the solutions too.
And it's, in some cases, I was talking to somebody, you might want to imitate or emulate other states that you think makes sense, or you might say that was a really bad idea. They bore the bruises to prove it, and we don't want to go that way. Either way, you're learning, I guess, and it's a valuable takeaway for your state. Could I draw a line if I come up there and I look at the bills you've introduced and your colleagues that have attended this event in 6 months or a year? Is it oversimplification to say I can draw a line from this back to, that was that Indianapolis session? I bet that's where that idea, or is it more just a notion of shaping the discourse and informing the discourse versus a straight, we can trace that bill to that day? How does it unfold?
It's a little bit of both, right? Because sometimes you attend and you get that kind of light bulb moment idea where some of the things I look at is how do we get more people in higher education? So maybe, and like also technical and vocational education training programs and pre-apprenticeships, and maybe you go to a session and you get that idea that sort of marries together what you want to work on. But the other side of it is the networking, and the networking that you develop here amongst your own colleagues as well. We do have a large Alaska contingent at every NCSL convention, and this year is not different. And so I think that networking and the conversations, it is something you point back to later and you say, well, remember when they were talking about X, Y, or Z, and is this something that we still agree is of great relevance and something we can work on together?
And it sounds as if it may be the kind of thing, it's not just yes, it's a slice of life, 3 days or whatever in an event, but if something rings a bell and you remember meeting a legislator from who had dealt with something or might have some valuable experience to share, you can call that person and or reach out in some fashion. And so it's an ongoing proposition, I suppose. I know you're busy. I won't take much more of your time. What do you want your constituents to, yes, we all had civics in high school and maybe reflect reality, maybe not. In my case, it was a long time ago. So, but a lot of people don't understand what goes on in their state house, even though arguably that's has a greater effect on them day to day than probably any other aspect of level of government. What do you want them to know about what you and your colleagues do day in and day out?
Well, first of all, that we are accessible, and that's one thing I'm really proud of. My tagline is all in for Alaska, and I think my constituents and others in Alaska have the ability to be all in on the process with us as well. So we have, despite our capital being in Juneau and being gone for a legislative session, we're all very approachable, accessible people, and I don't think I'm any exception to that. I send out a weekly newsletter, for example, and try to have regular constituent meetings. And so one thing is, I just want folks to know that we're here and we care a lot about finding the right solutions on a bipartisan basis for our state. And it doesn't necessarily matter what party affiliation we have. It doesn't necessarily matter exactly what policy issue is of greatest interest. What matters is we're all working together for a shared goal. And I do think that if folks are able to be engaged in that process, they'll see that, and they'll also be empowered to be a part of it too.
Makes good sense. Well said. We should add to those textbooks from civics a page of what you just said. We'll transcribe it and put it in there. I appreciate your thoughts. I think we all agree that in it for the citizenry, and you can't go wrong. Thank you, Ashley Carrick, of Fairbanks, Democratic Representative, District 35. Thank you for taking time to talk about what you hope to derive from this session and what some of your priorities are when you get back home. Thank you very much.
Thank you.